Well, good morning, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Carrie Coogan. I'm Deputy Director of the Kansas City Public Library and also one of the steering council members for the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion. Couple of reminders just to let you know this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted on our webpage. If there's anybody who's doesn't know about these meetings or you think should know about these meetings, please let us know or forward them the invite. We want to just make sure that anybody who wants to come or needs to come or doesn't know about us is welcome here. It's open to anyone. You can see our mission and vision on the screen here. I'm not going to read it, but it's also on the website. Many of you probably know that Lindsay Pulse, who was our AmeriCorps Vista, who was working for the library and helping to manage the coalition, has moved on to another position. So along with the team at the library, Wendy Pearson, who's our strategic initiatives manager, we're going to be running the coalition meetings until we have another Coalition Vista hired, which should happen hopefully in the next couple of months, which I think Wendy can give an update on later in the meeting. In the meantime, here's how you connect with us through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can share your hopes, share your dreams, share your accomplishments, information, anything you want in those shared pages, or let us know and we can share them for you. Wanted to introduce the steering council, and I think most of the members are here now today. I think we might be out, but I just introduced myself. Aaron Deacon. Paul.
Yes, Aaron Deacon, KC Digital Drive.
Great.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks, Aaron. Tom Esselman with PCs for People.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here.
I'm not sure if Rick is on the call. Rick has just retired as of last Friday from the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and is enjoying his retirement. I heard he just got back from Graceland. Rick, are you on the call? He must be down there still doing his Elvis impressions.
Yeah, he requested that we refer to him from now on as a hunka hunka burning love.
Okay. Well, we've got a really packed agenda today, and it's mostly filled with updates from people that we've heard from and some of the people that we haven't heard from. I wanted to give an opportunity to mention that if you're not a member of the coalition, it's really simple and it's not a requirement to do anything except commit to coming to meetings and commit to doing the digital equity, digital inclusion work that we're doing. And so if you want more information about that, you can reach out to me or Wendy Pearson or any of the steering council members. It's basically a form to fill out, and then you'll be listed on our website and in any correspondence we have with legislators or other people who we're trying to convince to be a part of this work. I did, before we get to the agenda, which we can leave up on the screen, I want to give a chance for any new people who are on the call to say hello and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit why you're on the call. Do we have any new people on the call?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, my name's Dylan Jones. I'm with the KC Tech Access. I'm their Vista with the my position is the volunteer program developer with the Vista program for a year.
That's great.
At the KC Central Library.
That's great. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Bowen. I'm actually working with the Kauffman Foundation and am just here to listen and try to learn a little bit more about what work y'all are doing.
Great, Kevin. Thank you so much. And let us know if we can add you to our invite list to get updates about what's happening and invitations to all of our coalition meetings.
I am working through the join page as we speak.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Who else?
Hello. This is Scott Pomeroy. I'm with the company Smart City Media. We're responsible for the City Post kiosks that you'll see throughout Kansas City. And I'm here to help figure out how we can use those to help your mission and moving forward.
That is great news, Scott. Thank you. We're definitely interested in working with you and finding ways to utilize those more for getting the word out about what we do, but also providing resources and information to people who might be needing services. So thank you.
Glad to be of service.
Great.
And Casey Sorensen here, joining with Tom. I'm from our Minnesota office at PCs for People, but sitting here in Kansas City with Tom Esselman.
Great, Casey. Thank you. You're on the agenda coming up in just a few minutes, and we're grateful to have you here and hearing more about what PCs for People is doing. So thanks so much for being here. Anyone else? Wendy, are you on the call?
I sure am. Good morning.
Just wanted to see if there was anything we're missing or anything we needed to add here before we start the agenda.
I don't believe so. I think I looked and all of our guest speakers are here, so we should be able to get started.
Okay, great, Wendy, thanks. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. And as I said, this meeting is largely made up of quick updates from people in our community and across the country who are in this work. We're going to start with back to school, and then we'll move on to infrastructure bill and other updates. And I know that Casey needs to get off the call sooner, so we'll start him right off the top with the infrastructure bill. But I wanted to get first to our back to school discussion. You know, as we know, it's time to go back to school, and many families are trying to prepare for how we're going to navigate what's ahead. Will we be working from home again and schooling from home? Will we be at school? So our first guest today is Ellie Moxley. She's the new public relations coordinator with the Kansas City, Missouri Public School District. And we're so thrilled to have her here and thrilled to have her in this new position at the district. And she's going to share with us some of the initiatives and things that are happening as kids return to in-person and who knows what else for the rest of the school year. Ellie?
Okay. Yeah. Hey guys. I'm Ellie. Some of you guys may already know me. I was the education reporter at KCUR for the last 7 years. So I've worked in our city and in our schools for a long time, and I'm really excited to be with Kansas City Public Schools now. I've been here about a month. I'm having a great time. Just to kind of update you guys, obviously last year was a really weird school year. I don't need to tell anyone that. Our main strategy, because we were virtual for most of the school year up until March, was to deploy hotspots to all of our families. That was a service that we were able to provide. And, you know, that's work that we're really proud of, because in this kind of pandemic school era, making sure that kids have internet access at home is, I mean, you can't do virtual school if there's no way to connect your computer to the internet, right? One of the things that we had to do very early on, one of the kind of lessons learned, was we had multiple different types of hotspots deployed. Some of our older hotspots that families had gotten through programs like the 1 Million program with Sprint, they had some data caps on them, and that was something that we had to work pretty quickly in September of last year to get removed so that students would be able to, you know, use their devices as intended. All that said, you know, hotspots are a stopgap, right? Like, they are a way to connect to the internet, but they are not really ideal for Zoom classes or, you know, any kind of intensive projects. So I think moving forward, we're going to be doing a lot of the same things with the school year. We are planning to be in person. We recognize that there may be periods during the year where individual students, classes, or schools end up having to isolate or quarantine. And during that time, they're going to be getting instruction through the Kansas City Virtual Academy, which is our online school, which means that we're still going to need to have hotspots and devices deployed for all of our students. So that's something that we're planning to do. But I think more broadly speaking, as we move forward, and I'm looking forward to hearing an update on the infrastructure bill, because I'm looking forward to learning more. But we really have to start thinking about, connectivity as a public utility, because our hotspots they're limited. I mean, we had it's wonderful that he did this. We have one of our teachers at East and principals, Brian Van Osdale, who would have students come over and do their homework on his front porch because he had really good internet and they didn't have internet in their homes. But we really need to think about how we're going to have that hardwired access for more people in Kansas City and across our region, because, without it, the amount of schooling that these kids are able to do and the tools that they can use, they are limited. And, we also have to solve for the problem. I know that there were programs last year during the pandemic that would give families, for example, a year of free internet or a year of reduced price internet. I know that that's something a lot of the, telecom companies have done. But at the same time, especially now with the eviction moratorium kind of has been in flux, our families are highly mobile. They go from one address to another. They often have multiple moves during the school year. And we need to be able to make sure that those resources stay connected with them and that they are able to, move internet access with them, and that if they've used a free trial once, that they can continue getting, low or reduced cost internet, because it's a huge expense. I mean, I think a lot of us, even that are in middle and upper income households, we look at, our cable bill or our fiber bill each month and we're like, man, that's 70 or $100 that I don't really want to be spending. And for our families, that's just cost prohibitive. It's just not even a realistic option for them. So we know what we need to do, at least right now, to keep our kids online. But at the same time, we know that there's a lot of work to be done, and we'd like to be partners with groups that are working towards really thinking about how we make internet access a public utility, because our students would really benefit from that.
Oh, great. A couple of quick questions for you, Ellie. Is the school district that announced that they will be going back K through 12 in person with the masks, correct?
Yes, we communicated with our families yesterday that we are going to be masking in all of our buildings at all of our grade levels. We are communicating some additional COVID-19 protocols to staff, today and early next week as they come back. We're continuing to clean the buildings. We know that families want kids to be in school this year, and we feel that masks are the best way to do that. At the same time, we also recognize we are in the middle of a COVID hotspot, and that we are probably going to have situations in the coming year that, we're going to have isolations and quarantines, and we wish that weren't the case, but we have a plan for it. And that plan is to continue to offer those families digital instruction. We also have digital instruction available for families that may have health concerns and don't feel comfortable being back in the buildings. But for the majority of our families, I think it's all but I think 98% of our families are coming back in person.
Great, thank you. And then another question I had is, I know that many of us worked with your former colleague at the district, Joe Phillips, who I think was running the IT department and who's now moved on to another position. Has that position been refilled, or who is the best person to contact at the district if any of our members or anyone on this call is interested in partnering with the district in some way, or offering help or resources or services? I know there's a lot of people that have been wanting to help, or at least see what might be possible in working with students or teachers or principals or even charter schools within the district. Can you share who a good contact might be with the district from your perspective?
Sure. Honestly, I'd be a good point of contact to start with, because I can get it to the right person. That role has changed a little bit, and different people are doing different parts of it. We've kind of expanded some of that position. So it's one of those things where if you guys want to come through me and navigate, I'll make sure it gets to the exact right person so that we can get rolling on it. I'm very responsive. I still have that kind of former journalist mentality where I'll get you connected, whatever you need to do, pretty quickly.
Okay, and one quick question from the chat. Are you working with any ISPs or programs attached to the Emergency Connectivity Fund or Emergency Broadband benefit for students or the district in general? Or I know the Emergency Connectivity Fund proposal is due August 13th, but are any news to report on if the district is involved in any of those programs in terms of communication to your students or families?
I'm gonna have to say I'm new and I'm still learning about some of our programs. I know that this was something that we had talked about briefly at one of our meetings. I know that we are involved in some of these conversations. I can't give you guys a full update on the status of them, but I can find out more information. If that person would like to shoot me their email, I can get a better answer for them.
Okay, that's fair. I understand. I didn't mean to, throw
No,
you too.
you're good. It's fine. I'm in the hot seat. It's great.
Okay, and in the interest of time, I'm gonna open it up. Are there any questions for Ellie? We can take one or two questions if anybody has anything for Ellie.
This is Leslie. I have one.
Sure.
Did you just fall in love with the district so much you had to go on ahead and join them?
They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Let's just say that.
Well, they're lucky to.
We are, and I just enjoyed your reporting so much, and I'm pleased to see you in a position where we're going to be able to hopefully get a more balanced and complete view of what's going on with the school district, because there really is a lot of things that are great about the district.
Yeah, guys, I have to say that as a reporter, anytime I could be in classrooms, it was my best. It was like always my best day ever if I could be in a school, whether it was a KCPS school or another school. But I can tell you just from what I experienced even before I came to the district, we have really good teaching and learning that's happening here. And I'm happy to be kind of your access point if you ever want to get into our schools and see a little bit more. I think that it's really great to actually come in and see our kids in action. So I extend that invitation to all of you. And I would also say, if you want to get more involved in our city and our schools, contact us. We can connect you up with our mentoring program. We always need people to, talk to our kids and just help them understand all of the different jobs and careers and opportunities that are out there, because, this generation, they know a lot more about tech than I will ever know and already, and they truly will be working jobs that we haven't even conceived of yet. And you guys are laying the groundwork for them to be able to do that.
Great. Thank you for the question, Leslie. And thanks so much for your update, Ellie. We look forward to having you at our meetings and as a point of contact. Thanks so much.
Perfect.
I'm going to move on in the agenda to our next guest, and that is Carnissa Caldwell. She's the Executive Assistant and Special Projects Coordinator for the Lean Lab. Many of you are aware of the Lean Lab education organization here in our community, and especially as it relates to our work and digital equity. Katie Booty, the founder and CEO of Lean Lab, jumped in immediately back in March 2020 and began to create a needs assessment for many of the schools in our area, both Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City, Kansas. And so now we are reaching out to Lean Lab again to hear from Carnissa, to hear more about what Lean Lab education anticipates for the upcoming school year and what solutions or information we need to know as a community in the digital inclusion, digital equity space from Lean Lab's perspective. So Carnissa, are you on the call?
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for that, Carrie. I'm here, I'm Carnissa Caldwell, as you said. I'm working with Lean Lab, and I have my partner here, Jorge. If you'd like to introduce yourself really quick.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Jorge Holguin, Manager of School Partnerships here at Lean Lab. And then I just included in the chat a quick highlight of what Carnissa is going to be presenting for you as well.
Great, thanks, Jorge.
And then we just had a couple of slides, just as Carrie mentioned. Lean Lab did jump in and start conducting some needs assessments, just really wanting to partner with the schools and see what exactly was going on and how we could be of assistance. We'll have these slides for you so you can click on the reports as well. But we did a need assessment in the spring of 2020, the fall, and then we just recently concluded a report in the spring of 2021, just basically asking the schools what resources were lacking, what they needed, and just progressing that over time to see what was still needed and how that ended for the school year. And just a small snapshot. And again, you can click on those links that we'll provide and get the full report.
Carnissa, should we be seeing something right now other than your welcome slide?
Yeah, And sorry, I think Carnissa might want to switch the slide deck as well.
I'm sorry, is it not?
We're just seeing the welcome slide right now.
All right.
Lovely.
Two screens here, sorry. All right, are you seeing that now?
Yeah, we see progress snapshot.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Where we started, we had 98% of the original connectivity need has been filled. 89% of the original device need has been filled, and we have about 155 students that are still in need of reliable internet access. And these are reports that, or these were surveys that were given to school leaders to track their progress, and they told us what was still needed from the schools. And a little more breakdown on that would be from the urban charters perspective. They started with the need of 1,215 in the spring, and they ended in the spring of 2020, and they ended in spring 2021 with about 100. As far as the rural and suburban public, they started with a high need of 6,868 in spring of 2020 and ended with 55 students that were still in need. The urban
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just ask really quickly, because I think I may have missed it. Is this just Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas as well? And is this just devices, or is it hotspots, or is it both?
This is the need of hotspots and internet connectivity. Okay. And also, we have some of the schools that are listed in the Kansas City, Missouri School District, as well as the neighboring areas in this report.
Missouri side, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That left us with a total of 155 students that were in need that were reported to us in spring of 2021. One of the things I wanted to point out was the long-term plan. When school leaders were asked, has your school district created a long-term connectivity or virtual learning plan? We had 56% say yes, and 44% of school leaders said that no, they had not yet created a long-term virtual learning plan. As far as Lean Lab's recommendations, I have to agree with Elle that we need some community partners that can now take the lead and offer these solutions for the digital divide in our community. Schools are not the best advocates right now to guide this work, and nor do they have the resources to fulfill the needs on their own. So as far as Lean Lab's partnership going forward, we're really reaching out to those community partners to see who can help with these solutions, who can help fund the solutions that the schools are going to need, and take a lot of that weight back from the schools that they've, undergone for the last year. Did you have anything to add for us, Jorge?
Yeah, I would just like to add, if you go back a few slides, Carnissa, on the actual reports itself. So yeah, there. So here, if you want to dive in a little bit more in each perspective report, you can click the link there directly to find out what schools were involved in this project directly. And then if you go one slide over, Carnissa, sorry, one more. Here, so with the urban public, you'll find that there's a yellow gap here directly. So that was within Kansas City, Missouri Public School Districts. They did their own assessment as well. So there were some unknown data there directly that, hopefully as we build these conversations, we're able to close that and identify those gaps as well, and continue to, as Carnissa mentioned, continue to work directly with community partners to continue to support these needs as we gear up for this new school year.
Great, thank you, Jorge and Carnissa. Any questions from the group for Carnissa or Jorge from Lean Lab? I'm assuming that the work of Lean Lab going forward will continue with these types of assessments, or will you move on to another direction? What will be the scope of your work for the upcoming school year as it relates to digital inclusion or digital equity?
Yeah, Lean Lab is really looking to take a more supportive role in the connectivity surveys. we still think that it is a viable and important thing in the community right now. However, it's still just slightly out of our scope of, our original mission.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions from anyone about this or how to access the report? Carnisa, you said that we'll have access to those slides that we can send out.
Yes, I'll send those over to you.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And they were also included.
And I think I mentioned this to some of you in email at different times. I've been working with Leslie and Carnissa to figure out how to pick that work back up. So we're looking at the
That was Aaron Deacon from KC Digital Drive. So you're going to be taking over this, Aaron? You're breaking up a bit.
Sorry, let me see if I can move a little bit and if I'm better. But yeah, we're looking at how best to pick this work up. So, the kinds of questions we ask may be a little bit different, given what the world is like right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we're in the process of doing that evaluation, and hope to have a more thorough update in the next month or two.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron. All right, moving on in the agenda, we're going to be, the next few guests are going to be talking about some upcoming program updates or information surrounding the United States Infrastructure Bill, which we think could be up for a vote sometime soon in the future. I sent out information in the initial email to invite you to this meeting just about the importance of the infrastructure bill as it relates to our work. One of the highlights is the Digital Equity Act is currently slated to be a part of that bill should it pass. Of course, no guarantees as things shift many times in the middle of the night these days. So just want to make sure that people are aware and can start researching the Digital Equity Act. And again, just can't stress enough for anybody who's on this call, particularly nonprofits or people who are providing services or projects in this work. Now is the time to be creating your shovel-ready projects. There's many local and state funding opportunities that are going to be coming our way. And so if you have a program that you're doing that is working well, you want to expand it, I think that's a good opportunity to be able to submit a proposal once this bill is passed. Just can't stress enough to be working on that and collaborate within this group as well. Okay, so having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom Esselman, who can introduce Casey Sorensen. Tom?
Thanks, Carrie. And I think it's a really good update. Your comments just now are a good kind of lead into what Casey's here to share with everybody. On the one hand, it is going to be an update on some things that are happening with PCs for People, which many of you know is what Connecting for Good turned into about a year ago. But more importantly, I think in the spirit of what Carrie was just saying, we want to make sure Casey's update gives you all an example of some of the things that we're doing that introduce all kinds of collaborative partnership funding opportunities for any individuals or organizations working in this space. So I'm going to hand it over to the CEO and co-founder of PCs for People, Casey Sorensen. And I'm going to work his slides, so I'm going to go ahead and share them. That's why I put those up. Does that work?
Can you make them bigger, Tom?
Oh, sorry. I thought
yeah, we're seeing presenter view.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me get out of that. And I'll just do your screen sharing. Yeah. Yeah, but it still goes to presenter view. There we go. My bad.
That's good.
Better?
Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. I think it's an incredibly exciting time in digital inclusion. As Tom said, my name is Casey Sorensen, CEO at PCs for People. And I've been running PCs for People for 13 years. And there's never been this much attention, energy, or funding around digital equity. So I'm thrilled to be in Kansas City here today with Tom and learn some more about the work Tom is doing and help drive that forward. And also today highlight some of the work we've done on EBB. And as Tom mentioned, generate some interest in new partnerships where we can work together to impact thousands of lives and write some new grants. Perfect. So I'm assuming everyone is pretty familiar with EBB, so I'll keep this high level, but eligible customers can get $50 off their internet. And based on our experiences, this can be applied to hardware like the hotspots and also the internet service, and then can get a one-time discount of $100 off of a computing device as long as they contribute $11 to $49. When this was announced, I found the device benefit to be really interesting because $100 plus the max of $149 equaling $149. It's really hard for a major ISP to find an OEM or supplier of thousands of devices at that price point, but it's right in a nonprofit refurbisher's ideal price range. So if at PCs for People we were to think up of a benefit, it would be something like the way they ended up crafting this device benefit. Tom, you can progress. For EBB, normally eligibility is based on income at or below 135% of the federal poverty level or participating in programs like SNAP or Lifeline. A customer is required to register in the National Verifier either through the ISP, online, or even via a mail-in paper PDF process. In the case of option number 2, a customer would take their approval to the ISP when they sign up for service. And this has created some challenges and delays in ISPs processing EBB enrollments. Go ahead, Tom. So in our registration process with the FCC, we learned of a process that is called alternate eligibility. If an ISP has an existing internet program for documented low-income customers, that ISP can use their own eligibility criteria, and customers no longer need to register with NLAB. And this has been huge for us. It's allowed PCs for People to use our existing 200% federal poverty level eligibility that we've had since the beginning of our program for computers, for existing hotspots, and apply that to EBB. The other important thing is there's one integrated process. So the screenshot that is shown here is at our website, ebb.pcsrefurbished.com. There's a step 1, signing up for terms. Step 2, verifying with NLAB, and that's not for eligibility, it's just making sure a customer is not already using the EBB benefit. And step 3, a customer is able to choose our products. So go ahead, Tom. So again, one time through, a customer goes through those 3 steps, they see the products and they can add them to their cart. So the top section here is an example of our EBB products and pricing from the online site, where for $56, a customer can get a laptop, hotspot, and 1 month of internet. At PCs for People, we've always wanted to be affordable retail and e-commerce, and I'm really excited for what pricing means for a family with a price like that. We heard earlier about the importance of mobility, and for that $56, this is a full mobile setup with ongoing unlimited free internet for that household. And that's what's shown at the bottom of the screen. Each month, our customers can renew their internet. It's a $0 transaction, so free ongoing as long as the funding for EBB lasts. And hopefully with the infrastructure bill, it becomes a long-term program instead of the shorter 6-month duration of the original funding. We also have $20 desktops available if someone is looking for a full desktop setup, which includes headphone, microphone, speakers, wireless ready, LCD desktop computer. It's been interesting to be part of a new program unfolding and therefore some of the challenges. Many of our customers have Lifeline phone. They start on our EBB internet And then from what we understand, their Lifeline phone provider asks them if they want to add internet to their phone plan. And of course, to the customer, this sounds great. But what they don't realize is they get transferred away from PCs for People or their EBB internet ISP, and their home internet turns off. So it's important to note that EBB can only be used once, but Lifeline phone and internet can coexist with two different providers. One unique thing about our hotspot program is we have a magical cap of the number of customers that we can have at any time. And rather risk ever telling a kid, sorry, we're sold out, you can't have internet, we decided to start building our own networks. And we're now building in 4 states, currently in Ohio, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois, where we're a last mile wireless provider, leveraging 4G LTE and CBRS. And we've also just started piloting 5G towers in Ohio. We do this work in both rural and urban. And the pictures on top are actual pictures of our team at work, where the first one is on top of a press box at a rural football stadium. The middle one is urban, on the tallest building in a urban market. And the last one is leveraging some city-owned telephone poles. So we're eager for continuing partnerships to do this work. When we go to a community, we partner with existing fiber owners like local ISPs or government entities. And we employ a strategy that's different than most traditional ISPs. We look to make investments in internet deserts and low-income neighborhoods. One example is in East Cleveland, where there was only DSL available. So no matter if you're low income, business, higher income, the fastest speed internet you could get was 3 megs. But now that we've built our towers there, those customers have an opportunity to sign up for 50/10 service through our LTE towers. Low-income WISP customers are also eligible for our EBB program, so ongoing free internet. And if EBB ends, it'll match our existing $15 per month unlimited pricing. And Tom may have already announced it, but some great news for Kansas City. We're just starting to build the same LTE networks here in Kansas City. We've also been doing low-income apartment complex projects. Tom and I are pictured here completing a fiber to the apartment install in Austin, Texas. And this was a really exciting project for us, taking our hotspots, our work that we were doing with wireless internet, and bringing high-speed wired internet to a complex. We contracted with a local fiber provider to bring a new fiber line into this apartment complex. And then we connected fiber to each of the 15 buildings, and we leveraged existing coax to the unit. So this delivers fiber-like speeds to every apartment on the complex. And overnight, when we completed the project, 800 people have high-quality, high-speed internet. And we've completed similar work here in Kansas City at an apartment just across the street from where we are right now, an apartment for victims of domestic abuse. And we'll be partnering with Google Fiber to connect 6 housing properties across the Kansas City area. And as Tom alluded to, partnerships are key to our work at PCs for People. So we now recycle for almost 2,000 companies across the US. We're processing around 4.3 million pounds of e-waste annually. And we're obviously taking those computers and getting them into homes. So demand continues to be huge for tech. So we're always looking for more businesses, more government entities, groups that are looking to retire their computers. And since the start of the pandemic, we have been expanding to try to better meet the huge need for devices. So we've grown from 3 states to 8, 80 staff to 210. And as with everyone else, it's been a pretty wild year. We're now distributing around 250 computers per day, 7 days per week. And again, excited to have new partnerships and get more families connected. And we're also expanding to Atlanta this fall. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, great. Thank you, Casey. Any questions from anybody?
We did have one come up in the chat from Jeremy. So what's the range of the wireless service you guys are installing?
It's about 1 mile. It depends on how high of a building we're on. So vertical assets are key, fiber partners are key, but it's about a 1 mile circle depending on how high up you can be. And so it's a small cell approach. We look to blanket a low income area or a region with this service with multiple cells to get good coverage.
Thanks, Wendy. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, everyone.
Going to move on in our agenda to our next guest, Representative Wes Rogers from the Missouri House of Representatives. He's here to give us an update on a special interim committee on broadband and the upcoming hearing.
Yes, so Wes Rogers, state rep for the 18th district.
Hi, Wes.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm new to the broadband world, and I've been reading about everything that's already been happening in Kansas City, and it's pretty cool to see all of your names here. I know I've been working on this really hard for a really long time, and so like I said, I'm new to it, and it's fun to hear what everybody else has to say. But state rep 18th district, which is southwestern Clay County. I live in Kansas City, and I represent most of my district's Kansas City, but also the cities of Northmore and North Kansas City. This summer, I got appointed to our interim committee on broadband development. That's something that Representative Riggs from Hannibal has been working on for a long time. And I think he kind of saw this before he realized we might actually have some money to invest in all this stuff. So we got lucky putting this committee together before the Fed started doing what they were going to do, and before we knew we were going to have maybe even a little bit of a budget surplus in Missouri. So Representative Riggs, I can't stress enough how good he is at this, and how much he knows about this. So I feel, like I said, lucky to be along for the ride. A couple updates on what we've done so far in our committee. We've had 2 hearings so far, and we also did a town hall in Independence a couple of weeks ago that several people in this group were at or participated in. The next hearing is coming up August 16th in Jeff City. That's something you can watch online, and I'll send the contact info when I can if you'd like to hop on and watch that. And then we'll continue to do town halls throughout the state. So what I would say, if you weren't able to make it to the Independence meeting and you would like to submit testimony, you either get with me and I will help you, or get with Representative Riggs and I'll give you my contact info so you'll have it. The point of these interim committees is not to pass laws, is to make recommendations to the General Assembly for next session. And we're in a really unique opportunity here, because for several reasons. One is Representative Riggs is very well respected. 2 is the state is already planning on investing money into broadband. And 3 is it looks like we may have all of this federal money coming through specifically for broadband. So what I'm saying is we have a chance right now like we've never had in the state, and we'll probably never have again. And so if you want your voice heard going into next legislative session, now is the time to do it. So you'd mentioned any programs that you have that you think deserve more funding. We'll include that in our report if you get it to me, and I'm happy to pass that along and encourage it. This is a bipartisan committee. I've been really impressed and happy so far about how well everybody's working together on this, and I don't think that it's just a cool thing to be involved in, because everybody agrees we need it, and there's no partisanship, and everybody's trying to do the right thing. So it's just, if you're a Missourian and you want your voice heard, and this is something you care about, it's just all coming together really nicely for that.
Representative Rogers, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
So if somebody does want to provide testimony, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a specific project? Are you looking for the case to be made about why it's important? And if it is a project or a service that you're offering, does it need to be directed a certain way, for example, toward workforce readiness or workforce development? Does it, refugee and immigrant services, seniors? I mean, can you shed a little bit more information on exactly what you're looking for? And also, what is the time amount? I mean, are you getting like a minute to testify, or do you need to follow up with a report? Like, can you be a little bit more specific about what you might be looking for?
So those are good questions. And a couple, so on your actual testimony, you can submit written testimony and that'll make it into the record. I've had several people email me written testimony, and then I'll take it to the chair and he'll put it into the public record. Normally for a regular session, like you said, Carrie, we're going to have a minute or 2 minute cap testimonies. The interim committees are different. We have not been limiting any testimony at all. If you come and testify, you'll have as much time as you want. And then a really important piece of that is you can either do it in person or you can do it remotely. But if you do it remotely, we have to vote on that prior to doing it. So for the August 16 hearing, it's too late to to come to speak remotely. The only people that are on that list are the city of Kansas City from this group. But we're having another meeting in September. So if there's somebody who can't get to Jeff City, but does want to submit oral testimony, let me know, and I will ask that we vote on that on the August meeting so that you can be there for the September meeting. And like I said, this is so more specifically, you're talking about workforce development or seniors or immigrants or whatever. What I would say is I think all of that stuff is important. The governor's prioritized workforce development and infrastructure. And so obviously, you know, this is infrastructure. Broadband is infrastructure. So anything that we're talking about in this regard, I think is already going to fit within what the governor is looking for. You know, workforce is a big one for him too. But this has been, and I really want to give Representative Riggs credit for this too. He's really cast a wide net because, you know, and as I'm learning as someone who's not a subject matter expert, you ask experts to define broadband and you're going to get a little bit different answer from no matter who you talk to. And then, you know, the default conversation in Missouri, especially because we're such a rural state, is accessibility. But in a part of the state like Kansas City, where we've got at least better accessibility than other parts of the state, affordability is a big piece of this too. So when we're talking access to broadband, it's not just accessibility, it's also affordability. So anything that you're doing in that regard, I think is really important as well. And I know that the committee chair will listen on that. And I'll certainly fight for anything that comes out of Kansas City to end up in the recommendations. But again, it's a cool bipartisan experience where I don't think there will be a lot of fighting necessary. I think we're really teaming up to invest money that we've got to invest in a good way. And I'll say, I see that, is Tim Arbiter here?
Yeah, Tim Arbiter just joined the call and he's our next speaker. So he's going to share what's going on with
yeah, so I'll let him get into the weeds on this. That guy is all, I don't want to say he's a legend, but he is so highly regarded in Jeff City as far as somebody who really understands this stuff. So when it comes to policy, I'll defer to him and his reputation. I'll just say that my role in this is just making sure if you want your voice heard in Jeff City and you want what you care about to end up in this report, please talk to me and I will help you make that happen.
Right. Thank you, Representative Rogers. I do want to open up for any quick questions for you from anyone on the call.
Yeah,
Any questions before we get to Tim?
We did have one pop up in the chat from Leslie. What was the deadline again for submitting?
It's going on all summer, so I think they want to have the final report in November sometime. So you've got a couple of months still.
And can we get the information from you exactly where to submit so that we can send it out to this group in a follow-up email after this call?
Yeah, I'll send out all of my contact info and I'll also include Representative Riggs on that too, since he's the chair. But I would say if it's Kansas City related, and it's been, like I said, it's been fun to work with them. Anything Kansas City related, we're probably better off coming to them together and saying, hey, these are our Kansas City recommendations. So either with me or Representative Riggs, we'll make sure that we get it where it needs to go.
Great. And I think some of the confusion or just some of the challenges of figuring out all of the federal, state, and local funding that's happening is not only, you know, reaching out to the proper representative or the proper person like Tim Arbiter in the Missouri State Broadband Office, but also how the funding will come down. So for example, the infrastructure bill may come through NTIA, which is the National Telecommunications and Infrastructure Administration. But what does that mean? Does that mean it comes to the state broadband office, or does it mean that we have to track it another way? Some have come through Department of Treasury. How can we understand in this space how to follow where the money is coming and when it's coming?
And not to take the easy way out, but I'm not even going to pretend like I've got as good an answer on that as Tim does.
Okay.
So Tim will have a better answer on that than I do.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Representative Wes Rogers from anybody on the call? Okay. Well, I guess that leaves you've left open a wonderful introduction for Tim Arbiter, who's on the call now, who is many of you have heard him on our call. He's presented before, and he is the Director of Broadband Development in the Missouri Department of Economic Development. So Tim, happy to have you on the call. Thank you so much for your time. And could you share with us some of the updates that you're hearing and maybe some information about what's going on from your perspective, and take some questions from anybody who is on the call?
And I'm going to do a sound check. Carrie, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
First and foremost, happy Friday, everyone. I don't know about you, but it's like the rapid charge towards Friday. I have a few updates and apologize, I don't have any slide deck to share. It's just going to be raw updates. Everything's moving fast and furious right now in the broadband space. In my world, at the state level, all of the communities that are on this call today. So first and foremost, and then I had this conversation the other day with Carrie, just know that we're all need to just take a breath. Yes, there's a lot of waves coming, but know that we're going to, as partners and as friends in this space, we're going to do everything we can to communicate regularly and often of the things that we know that are coming. So the updates I have for you right now is really real time. It changes every day. So first and foremost, let's talk about the NTIA Broadband Infrastructure Program. Again, this may or may not have impacts with the KC region. But we closed that process in late July. We received applications from 21 companies, broadband companies from around the state, totaling about 43 project areas that are currently being assessed right now by grant reviewers at the state level. And that total is just a hair over $104 million in grant requests. So just as a level set here, NTIA, the federal agency, gave guidance to the states, covered partnerships, quote unquote. We as a state will be a covered partnership, but our range of requests can be between 5 million and 30 million. So that's a recommendation. So we have to evaluate the $104 million in requests and put together a package that's being reviewed right now by our grant reviewers. And we have to make some decisions within the next couple of weeks because that deadline approaches on August 17th. So that's really one of the drivers of my attention right now because that's actually physically getting people hooked up to the internet based on the NTIA program. The next thing that I would probably say that does have some implications for the Kansas City market, the Connecting Minority Communities program launched by NTIA made outreach to the institution that could impact. It's primarily for institutions of higher education. And so again, that launched late last week. That deadline is going to be December 1st. And so that Connecting Minority Communities is really aimed at those institutions of higher ed. So we'll see. They have a few months to get their stuff together if they want to apply for it. But both institutions that are historically Black colleges and universities, Lincoln University and Harris Stowe, while they're not in the Kansas City Metro, we probably have students who attend those institutions from the Kansas City Metro. They've been keenly interested in this particular program. As you probably already, I won't dive too deep into it, but the FCC EBB program has not closed yet. It is not fully expended. So, whatever efforts that you are to get folks signed up for EBB, keep going. At last check, just shy of 72,000 households in Missouri have signed up for it, placing Missouri in that 19th position in the nation for enrollment. So for my grassroots entities that are signing up families, if you found the secret sauce on how to get them signed up, keep going. It's not expended yet. So the next thing, Carrie could probably provide more color on this. I just get the updates from my state agencies and state partners, but the state librarian with IMLS with their recent grant round for libraries from across the state. So that's an active program. I don't know the close date on that, but Carrie can provide more light on that. The FCC's Emergency Connectivity Fund, which is the schools and libraries. I'm not sure if it was discussed on this group or not. So this is FCC ECF, Emergency Connectivity Fund, closes on August 13th. Massive frustration across the country regarding this program because of the 45-day window for schools and libraries to get their materials in, and a lot of confusion and wonder on how to leverage the home connectivity features that are inside that program. The national briefing that we're receiving is that round will close, and there is every indication that there'll be a round two. How long that round two is my hope that they provide the schools and libraries that are exhausted more time to get an understanding of what they can do in the home connectivity space That national fund is a $7.2 billion fund. So everybody's curious on the total requests that will come in on round one. So the big question of the day is the infrastructure bill currently being debated. Again, don't have the latest check. I know that's on the daily notification, but I would hearken you back to my update on the NTIA broadband infrastructure program. If NTIA ends up being the recipient of the massive infusion of funds in the billions, there is indications that that particular program for the infrastructure piece, this is not the affordability or access, but the infrastructure piece could run through NTIA as one of 3 federal agencies that probably are vying for those dollars. But if they are, that would kind of be the pilot. Carrie, to your question of the representative on how that would work, I think there's probably indications right now. This is not solid, folks, so please don't quote me. This is just me reading the tea leaves at the federal level. But if it does run through NTIA, I would imagine they may replicate what the U.S. Department of Education does, which is require state entities, i.e. the broadband office, to make a request for a drawdown of those funds, and that what that drawdown is, there's a plan, there's projects potentially identified for the use of those funds for the state allocation. So there could be a quote unquote state allocation of the infrastructure bill. Then we as a state would do the drawdown. Probably for the infrastructure piece, I'm not sure how they'll do the digital literacy and affordability piece, whether that runs through other agencies or there's a lot of questions in this space, folks. So much like our anticipated wait for the Treasury guidance on state recovery and local funds, we're going to have that same level of waiting period for the guidance on how this is all structured. I bring up the infrastructure bill because it could be another wave that we just keep our eyes on. And then finally, just so you know, this is some good stuff, good movements happening on a number of different levels with the Treasury. This is the United States Treasury, not state Treasurer's Office. So U.S. Treasury received notification that one of my colleagues in North Carolina is now joining the Treasury staff, and he's joining a former colleague of mine in the Minnesota Director's Office. Those two are now staffed at the U.S. Treasury to help with broadband guidance and as we move forward with all these massive funds. So those are kind of my bigger ones. Probably feels like a month ago, but it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. Hosted a meeting down at the lake with our broadband providers from across the state to do some listening sessions with them on future funding opportunities. And then also with the University of Missouri System and the Regional Planning Commission staff members from across the state came together for a training on all of MU's tools and resources that they're developing in the broadband space. But I don't know if Tony had talked about that earlier, so I won't go any farther than that. That's a lot to share, but I would just open up for any questions.
Tim, can I go ahead and ask a question? ARPA recently, or the FCC recently, put out an IFR about ARPA. Are they coming out actually with a final report instead of an interim final report? Have you heard anything about that?
Are you speaking about FCC or the Treasury?
I thought the FCC USAC issued that IFR, that interim final report. Is there actually going to be a final report?
I haven't had a chance to read that report, DJ. But I could answer the question that the Treasury has not, U.S. Treasury has not issued final guidance on state recovery or local funds, nor have they dropped interim guidance on what's called the Capital Projects Fund. That does have a state feature to it, but the Treasury has not issued those on that as well. So the Treasury, again, we're waiting for the final. That will probably be a question of ARPA framework. We are taking the next, few months to put together the overall thoughts and processes on the ARPA framework as it relates to broadband. But whatever's put together will have to go back to the legislature to seek the necessary approval and spending authority when those federal funds are accessible at the state level. Some of the counties and cities are probably well underway with their plans as far as getting their direct allocation from the Treasury, but I don't have any date specifics on that, so I hate to conjecture anymore.
I just wanted to see if you had anything new on that. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, DJ. Leslie Scott has her hand up. Leslie?
Leslie's always good for.
Yeah.
So I was digging around in the Broadband USA newsletter, and it directed us to the ARPA EDA American Rescue Plan programs. One of them is the statewide planning, research, and networks. And there is a bullet that says supporting statewide broadband data collection and mapping efforts and developing statewide broadband deployment and technical assistance plans. So that it looks like that money goes to the governor's office, and if they accept it, then we get it. So I'm just wondering if you had any information about that. There's a bunch of webinars. I guess, so this was August 2nd, they released the FAQ. And then there's a bunch of programs, Build Back Better Regional Challenge, Good Jobs Challenge, Economic Adjustment Challenge or Assistance, just a bunch of stuff. So I don't know if you covered that sort of generally, and I just didn't understand that you did. But I'm just curious if you're watching that as well.
I am watching that. I have another colleague in my department that looks over the EDA stuff in general, not just broadband, but in general. And you're correct. It does go, the notification is to the governor's team and the governor himself on what they would like to allocate those resources that would be dedicated to the state of Missouri through the EDA assistance. So early stage, that has not been determined. But yes, I did see that notification come through, the upcoming webinars. But that is a governor's office determination on what they would allot those dollars for.
Have you heard of any regional plans that that are going through this Build Back Better Regional Challenge?
That's something that the regional planning commissions will have to debate. So that would be Mark. So Mark would have to do that assessment of what they would do. I do know I can speak of like previous like CARES assistance. There's about 7 or 8 regional planning commissions that put in for Economic Development Administration EDA assistance to help with some of the broadband stuff at the regional level. And so that has been an underway currently. But then we also have a request into the EDA for some CARES assistance for regional feasibility county assistance. That has not been determined yet or approved yet, but we're hoping that we're really close to getting that approval. But that is more of a county regional centric strategy, not necessarily a state one.
Thanks, Tim. Any other questions for Tim? And also just alerting everybody to the chat where Tony Lapino from University of Missouri, Kansas City provided a couple of updates that Tim mentioned. Any other questions for Tim? I think my question would be, I mean, I know you gratefully said everybody take a breath at the beginning of this call, but I mean, is there some sense of the timeline in terms of when do we be ready for, ready to act? Or, I mean, I know we're all preparing, but any sense of the timeline, whether, that would include ARPA and the infrastructure bill? I know, again, asking you to read the tea leaves, but just think about, let's say, if it passes, then how much time do we have? Maybe just some help in preparing.
Just know the infrastructure bill has several other hurdles to overcome. A lot of the House discussions have yet to take place, and then you have the conference committee, and then it goes back to the president. So, I would say keep watching the national media on the infrastructure bill. The Biden administration, President Biden himself, has been regularly communicating heard agreements that have been happening with the Senate leadership. So it'll be keen to watch the House negotiations. But then it's got to go back to conference, and then it's got to go to the White House for signature. So I'd say, keep engaged with your national networks, NDIAs, and major entity in this space, Pew Charitable Trusts, the Benton Institute, if you're not keyed in or getting weekly emails from the Benton Institute, BENTON. I always enjoy reading Kevin's blogs related to that. Also, I would say too, Broadband USA will have some stuff, but they're not going to be as. And then Shelby, of course, would be another one. So the three biggies, Pew, Shelby, and Benton Institute are probably the ones I probably watch the most. Looky there, Wendy's already on it. Putting in there, get their broadband notices. That there's some really good reads in there. It's something that I immediately click over when I get it, just because I need that sense of what's going on in the federal space. So let's transition back to the state. Okay, so Carrie, your question about the ARPA. So if it's got to go back to the legislature, means that essentially it'll probably line up with the governor's recommendation for the new state budget, and that's typically dropped before or just immediately after the session opens, and then that starts the appropriations process. So, when I say take a breath, the state ARPA, and again, not talking county, not talking community, those are separate processes, as well, as their decision-making process on what they do. But at the state level, if it's in the governor's recommendation for the budget, starts the appropriations process, then that's going to launch everything from there. So, so start like late winter, early spring is when everything's going to kick up related to state ARPA. So it's just from a timing perspective, but it doesn't hurt in the interim. Everybody wants to kind of like, once you hear that, they're like, oh, I got time. What I would encourage this crew is come up with the 3, 5, 6, critical areas you want to see advocacy for, because then that's when, when it does come out, and this is not just broadband, guys, this is everything ARPA related. So COVID impact, COVID resiliency, COVID response, water, sewer, broadband. Those are the big ones in ARPA. If you were to boil it down to that, but your keen interest is broadband, affordability, digital literacy, access, equity, just really get that really honed in and synthesized of, what are the aspects that you're hoping to see in the framework. And then when it finally does drop, you match it up to your priorities versus what's in the framework. And then you either get really excited or you get really frustrated, one of the two. So, so then your talking points comes from that as you look to make your voices heard during the appropriation process.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Really excited or really frustrated or both at the same time. Okay, any questions for Tim? Okay, Tim, well, thank you so much. Really appreciate these updates and for shedding some light on what is a really complex and massive topic. So look forward to your continued updates for this group, and thinking that for the coalition, speaking from a member of the steering council, I think we should put together a working group of members of this coalition to look exactly at what Tim just mentioned. What are some of the projects or advocacy that we want to be looking at and collaborate on together. So we can send out more information about that to get your thoughts and to see who might be interested in some sort of working group so that we can be ready to act together. Tim, anything else?
Can I ask a quick question before we let Tim off the hook?
Sure.
How many people would you like to fully staff your office? What would be your dream staff number?
Gosh, it's hard to answer that right now, Leslie, because yes, on the face, I am one individual on the face of the broadband office, but it is hard to answer that because I do If you look at the Department of Economic Development, I have a dedicated legal person that I work with on our legal team. I have a dedicated comms person that I work on broadband stuff. I have a dedicated economic analyst when I'm looking at economic impact. And so certainly, yes, I mean, as we look at the infusion of resources, there are probably going to be some things that we need to look at, i.e., as we all know, for your past experiences in writing grants and stuff would be probably, probably beneficial to have a grants administrator in the office. So whatever money that we dispense through the blessings of ARPA or other federal fundings, it'd be nice to have somebody watch that day in and day out to make sure that if we're ever called upon by the Treasury or get the audit, we can all say in full faith and measure that we did the right things with these funds. And there are probably a couple other things, whether it be, a telecommunications, technical person. I'm not a broadband guy. I've always been a chamber and economic developer, seeking the win-win-win strategy. And so I have to go hunt sometimes for that technical expertise. So Lizzie, it's really hard to put a number on that right now because I myself, much like you guys, are trying to assess everything that's coming. I'm doing that as well from the office space. But Carrie, I would do one other suggestion. I would say from like the key talking points of these are the criticals. These are the things we would love to see in the framework. Don't be afraid to reach out to your friends in St. Louis. Don't be afraid to reach out to your friends in Columbia or Springfield. Some of the other major markets, because if you compare your talking points with them, as I engage those groups, I would probably say they're pretty darn similar. And so when you can say it with a larger voice, it does get noticed.
Okay, that's good information. Thank you, Tim. And thanks for your question, Leslie. Two quick updates from what Tim brought up regarding the library, and that is the Emergency Connectivity Fund. That was the question that I asked Ellie Moxley from the Kansas City Public Schools earlier, and that is money that has been allocated to help with funding for broadband access and devices to schools and libraries across the nation. The Kansas City Public Library is applying for and submitting a proposal to the Emergency Connectivity Fund, and ours is largely centered on devices. So we're looking to apply for at least 1,000, possibly more devices that would be available for checkout, both individually to our patrons and then also a bulk checkout of devices to our community partners. So again, that is our draft proposal. It has to be submitted August 13th. We don't know if that will happen. We're also looking at an influx of possible hotspots as well. The other funding he mentioned specifically for libraries through the state is through IMLS, which is the Institute for Museum and Library Services. That's another federal entity which provides funding to libraries and museums across the country. Many of you may remember our former library director, Crosby Kemper, is now the executive director of the Institute for Museum and Library Services. And we have been allocated, along with other major libraries across the state of Missouri, just recently through ARPA, $120,000, of which we submitted to ask for funding for 2 positions to help us implement the Emergency Connectivity Fund. So when you get an influx of over 1,000 devices, you need to have somebody who can manage and facilitate and make sure that process goes smoothly. And so we used our money from IMLS to make sure that we have people in place to do that. So just want to be open and transparent about that funding. But as Tim mentioned, and I'm sure there will be more money coming to libraries through both of those entities as well. So we continue to look for ways to partner. So, make sure you're reaching out to us if you have ideas as well, for those of you on this call. And then finally, one last thing that the library has been working on as a result of COVID CARES funding, which was money that was facilitated and organized by Mid-America Regional Council, and it was brought together by community organizations and corporations in the midst of the pandemic under the COVID CARES funding. And we received money, the Kansas City Public Library did, to create a new hotline that is regional and ties with the work that Tony Lapino is doing at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, which is the Missouri Broadband Resource Rail, which includes resources for people to get digital skills training and information about devices and information about connectivity to the home. And that whole project is called Tech Connect, which is being headed up by Wendy Pearson from my team, our strategic initiatives manager, and she has an update now on that new hotline, which is getting set to launch. So I'll turn it over to you, Wendy.
Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, we're very excited. Having worked on this project now for several months, we were awarded this project support back in late 2020. So obviously it's been in the works for a while, and we're very excited to announce earlier this week that we received a commitment from our software vendor that we should be up and running by the 23rd of August. So that means the week after next, we are going to get access to the hotline software and call center platform so that we can familiarize ourselves with it, work out any kinks, and then go live that following Monday on August 23rd. So by the time we see each other next for the next coalition meeting, I'll have the actual phone number for you. I can't share that quite yet. And then some promotional marketing materials for you to share and pass along to your clients if you're working out in the community. Like Carrie said, this will be a number for anyone in the KC Metro region, either side of the state line, any of the counties, to call if they're looking for anything related to digital inclusion, home internet service, an affordable device, a smartphone with an affordable plan, you know, training, job skills training, troubleshooting issues. You know, we really want it to be sort of a one-stop shop for people, so they don't have to use the digital skills that they may or may not have to find the resources that they need. So August 23rd, everyone.
Tony, did you want to add anything? Tony Lapino?
Yeah, just from the university perspective, my updates, 2 of them are in the chat already. The third is we have been in contact with Representative Briggs and the committee that Representative Rogers is on to find ways the university can help. And one of them will be no surprise to anybody here who's been working on digital inclusion, which is we need to get better door-to-door data in our communities about, you know, not only connectivity and access to devices, but also adoption or reasons why adoption is not happening to help inform policy. So that's going to be, I think, a big emphasis for us the next few months.
That sounds great, Tony. Thank you so much. Okay, does anybody have any questions for either Wendy or Tony, or anything that they would like to share, or anything coming up before our next meeting, an event or something that they would like to share with the group? I'm just going to open it up.
I do have one more. Since Ina Montgomery from Urban Tech isn't here, she asked me to share a message for her. Going back to the first part of our meeting, back to school, obviously starting up soon. And she asked that if any coalition members are interested in partnering for a program with digital skills training, you know, for youth, give her a call.
Wendy, you're muted.
Oh, all of that. So
okay,
I said all of that and I was muted, darn it. So I was asked by Ina Montgomery, who wasn't able to make it today, to share a little bit of information. She said if anyone is interested in starting up a digital skills training program with youth, give her a call, contact her. I just dropped all the information in the chat.
And just a reminder to everyone, everything that was discussed in this call, we will share in a follow-up email that will go out early next week. Okay, any other events or anything that anyone would like to share?
Yeah, I'd mention, and I can't remember for sure if we shared this last time or not. Maybe we didn't know. No, we wouldn't have shared it last time. So I know we've talked a little bit about the Kansas Health Foundation's grants around digital equity collaboratives. They did award those, and we were selected for one of those, along with a couple other organizations that serve the KC Metro, the Groundwork NRG, which is focused on the Northeast neighborhood and KCK, and KU, I think Henjin Show was the PI on their application, and is going to focus on incarcerated women returning to work. The kickoff call for that with Kansas Health Foundation is in a few weeks. I put a link in the chat to our announcement, and there's a link in there to the Kansas Health Foundation's announcement. but we'll have more on what that looks like programmatically. It's a 3-year grant and will allow us to have dedicated staff to supporting collaborative digital inclusion work, and it'll build on the work of this coalition. And we're excited to get moving and have a little bit more capacity to support this kind of work.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Okay, great. I just want to thank everybody so much for being on this call, for sharing what you're doing, for the incredible work that everyone is doing. I want to thank all of our guests who spent time researching and getting ready to talk to all of us today. And just let's all keep talking. Let's all keep working together. Let's all find ways to collaborate. You know, we're so close to really doing some transformative and impactful work here. So just want you to know that if you have thoughts, ideas, suggestions, you know, send them to me. If you have something that you want to submit for the next meeting, please let us know. And really just can't thank you all enough for all the work that you do and for being a supportive part of this coalition. So thank you all so much. We'll see you next time.